Welcome to the Sharing the Heart of the Matter podcast. Join us as we celebrate the brilliance of authors, storytellers, and creators. I'm Wynne, and in this inspiring episode, co-host Vicki, Atkinson, and I are talking with talented writer Michael Frutig. Michael shares with us some of his different creative projects and talks about creating in different styles in order to avoid getting into a rut. Michael gives us a peek into how to work in tandem as an author. From vision to research and also delivering drafts, he tells us about how he worked collaboratively as a writer on his Lincoln in Chicago project. He tells us that writing just makes him feel better. Beautifully said, and in line with so much wisdom about the effectiveness of writing as a tool for living well. We connected with Michael through one of his former teachers, Mark Wukas, author of Kiss of the Night. It's incredible to see how that friendship keeps spurring on both of them. This is a great episode about creativity and the writer's journey. We know you'll love it.
Hey there, Michael.
Hi.
Hey, Wynne
How
and
are
I
you?
we're good and we're so excited to spend some time with you today. It's not often that we've had the pleasure of meeting with an author who is as diversified and talented as you are. And we just know that our listeners and viewers are going to be really excited to listen and learn from you during our chat with you today. So we welcome you in and we're excited.
Well, thank you very much for having me. That was very kind. Thank you.
Vicki's
Oh,
good with the introductions, and she's spot on.
oh, life is short. Celebrating each other is something that Wynne and I really put a premium on. And it's really the point of this podcast, finding ways to really lift up people that are doing the really hard work of creating.
hmm
Which, we'll talk about that with you, but for us, it's not the easiest thing we do.
Yeah.
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 Well, and there's also the act of, writing is one thing, but the act of marketing yourself is
Oh,
hard.
It's tricky. It is
Yeah,
very tricky.
it is. And it's like, it's hard to see ourselves from that perspective. And anyway, but we're happy to come along and
yeah, no,
row the
it's
marketing boat for a minute or two.
isn't that the truth? Because it is the writing is such a solitary thing, and then having to talk about the writing really pushes us to
Yeah.
the outer edge of like my comfort,
Right.
right?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
there's so many places where you could talk, and learning about where to promote yourself
Mm-hmm.
and how it's a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's true.
Well, and one of the things that we love about your story is that, often what we find is even though there are lots of, pundits out there, people that will tell you this is how you do the promotion and you need to have this and that and all the different tools and social media. What we love about your story and the opportunity that we have to talk with you today is that you came to us old school because we've got a shared friend and author Mark Wukas, right?
Yes, yes. I've known Mark for a long time, probably almost exactly 10 years now, because he was my junior English teacher. And I think it was American Lit. So that was ages ago. And we sort of kept in contact through the years. And now he lives down the street from me in Chicago.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
It
And
is. And
he's also a big fan of yours.
It's very nice. I am glad that I managed to beat him to the punch in getting published with Lincoln in Chicago. So I think of him as my mentee, but
that
That's
is
good.
so good, right? And what's more old school than that? The student turning the tables with the teacher, right?
yeah.
That's like
hmm
it's so perfect. Well, and we love Mark's book. We talked to him, like Wynne said a few weeks ago, The Kiss of Night, which is just wow. So, more praise for Mark, but what a wonderful teacher for you to have had in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been working on that book a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think he even mentioned it, back when I was in his class. maybe not under that name, maybe not with those plot points, but he was slowly working on it over the years, and to finally have it, it's great.
It's
Don't tell him, but I'm
amazing.
only halfway through.
Shh, yeah, well, we
Yeah,
won't tell. We promise. We promise.
By the time this airs, you'll be long.
I'll be done. Yeah,
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah,
I love that. I love that. Well, you just mentioned one of the things that you've done, and again, Wynne and I are not just nice people. Mostly we are, but we are so impressed, with your catalog, of what you've done and the variety. And one of the things you just mentioned, you co-wrote a piece called Lincoln in Chicago, and
yeah, yeah.
we'll talk about that too, unless you want to mention it now with a
Sure.
fellow writer, John Toman.
Yes.
Co-writing is not for the faint of heart. So, of all the things that you've done, do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. That was probably, it may have been the first book I finished. It was in a more professional setting, and I wasn't just writing for me. But so I got hired, I was brought along as the co-author slash ghostwriter for John's lifelong project. He was an amateur historian and florist by trade. But he had all this material on Abraham Lincoln and Chicago, which he had obsessively collected over the years, and he needed help turning that into a book. So I was brought along. I did I read all his notes. I did additional research, and then he and I would sit down, and it would work out. He was old, and he would sit down next to me, and I would read out what I was writing. And it was this weird collaborative process of we would talk about what would come next. I would type it up, and then I would read it out to him, and he would add whatever notes he had. Um,
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I love that as
Yeah.
a process. It's, you're seeking clarification, but you're also honoring him.
Mhm.
And, for all of us as we get older, sometimes listening to someone read to us is like a big hug.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it took us, I think, about 8 months to write the first draft of it. And
Mhm.
then it was editing and looking for an agent and a publisher that took up a good year and a half. So
Wow.
yeah, it was
Well,
a
and
a big learning process for me too, because I
yeah.
was like right out of college, and that was the first book I ever wrote,
Ah,
Lincoln in Chicago.
that's great.
Well, and how does that, when you think about your background generally as a writer, a professional writer, how does that align with what you do day to day right now in the world of writing? What's your current, what you would describe as your like 9 to 5?
Um, well, yeah, so after that book, I sort of got into ghostwriting. So it was very relevant. And I was doing ghostwriting for a long time, just working on other people's projects.
Hmm.
So learned a lot of patience because,
Yeah.
sometimes uh, he would remember these small little nuggets from that he had seen or heard ages ago,
Mhm.
and then he would send me on this chase to find it and put it into his book. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
Wow.
crazy experience, but I learned a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah. Oh my
Sounds like some
goodness.
good research skills too.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing was he had so many books in his place. So if he read it somewhere, it was somewhere in his vast library. I just had to find the right book.
Wow. Wow. And what a statement making thing about trust, right? Because when you met him, he didn't know you, you didn't know him, but
Yeah, yeah.
it becomes probably a fairly intimate, relationship. Trying to crawl into his head, anticipate, and then follow his lead about what he wants you to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was very much the guy. He was the author, and I was the co-author. So we had to keep going until the book was just right. And towards the end there, he had a hard time visualizing the book as a whole. So what I
Hmm.
did was I installed a program on Microsoft Word that would just read out the whole document, and I recorded that for him and put it on a CD so he
Oh,
could listen to his whole book however much he
wow.
wanted.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's a nice
Yeah.
use of technology.
It was nice because he was very old, and so he understood the CD part if he didn't know how to read the
Mhm.
document on a computer.
Yeah. Is John still alive?
No, sadly, he passed shortly after the book was published. So
It's really
it was a
nice.
life's work for him, and
Yeah.
He put a lot of
Wow.
himself into it.
Ah. We hear that a lot from, fellow authors about what their motivation is to write and
Mm.
tell stories, whether it's the thing that you're most passionate about, like Lincoln's, life and history, or your own personal story, leaning into memoir. But people write so that they can reach into the future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
yeah. I mean, th this was his life's work, and he really put all of himself into it.
wow. Well, so we have to like now broaden the scope. All right. So this is where you can be embarrassed if you want to be. But Wynne and I, when we were learning about all that you've written and the connection that we made with you from Mark, oh my goodness, sci-fi, fantasy, short stories, novellas, poetry. I mean, is there a genre you haven't touched?
Nothing contemporary. Not
Yeah.
yet, but yeah, I've just been writing. The first thing I did was for myself. The Ring of Dane Thardween was an epic fantasy, epic poem. I don't know why I started writing it. It's not the most modern of styles, but after that, I just wanted a big change. So the next thing I did was like a sci-fi thing, and then after that, I wanted another change, so a different thing. And just bouncing around genres has been really good for me creatively because
Hmm.
it just feels so different each time.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly, yeah, you broaden your skills and make sure you don't get stuck in a rut for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it keeps your creative muscles engaged, I think,
Mhm.
to just do different things back to back.
Right.
Well, and
And,
go ahead, Wynne.
well,
Sorry.
I was going to say that we have a friend who's a playwright who's written so
Yeah.
many great things. And he talks about, like trying to do something in somebody else's style, or those things are the
Hmm.
things that can get you out of being stuck sometimes, is just
Hmm.
to adopt just another style or voice or.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets you out of being in a rut. If you're just writing the same thing all the time, you
Yeah.
might run out of things to say in that
Mhm.
space.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a great example. And I think it's why some of the writers we enjoy the most have a really keen sense of history also, of different
Hmm.
genres. And, they can kind of pull, like Wynne said, from different, facets of things that they've read or experienced.
Well, the
Well,
nice thing about that too is that, the further back you go, like the more you can take from. Because, at this point, like you're not going to have the most original idea or anything like that, but having just going through history and everything that everyone else has written just lets you recontextualize that into and like put some of yourself into that to create something new from something old.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and the Ring of Dane Thardween, did I
Nailed
say
it.
that? Okay. Is it Gaelic?
It very much inspired by Gaelic stories. Beowulf, I love
Okay.
Beowulf. I have, I think, 3, 4 books on Irish stories and legends, and so just reading those and being like, I want to do something like this. I was writing that story right out of college, and that story taught me a lot about writing too. But I was really just working off of things I heard in my classes and just writing them down instead of taking very good notes. I was storyboarding. And
I
then
love that.
out of college, I thought I want to be a writer. I don't know what to write, so I just looked at my notes and was like, all right, I'll write this, and just launched into it, not knowing how long it would take or what it would end up looking like. And yeah, learned so much.
That's
And it's
great.
beautiful. We'll include the YouTube clip because it's lyrical. It's like music. I'm not sure what words to use to describe it, but it's really beautiful.
That's the nice thing about epic poetry is, you just put some elbow grease into it and it ends up sounding like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's so different from what we write these days that like doing it feels so freeing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. This is going to be like a leap because I'm in my head, I'm connecting two things, and Wynn has to put up with me a lot. They may not belong together, but I'm wondering about
Sure.
something. So we're going to talk about like the most amazing character, your quintology,
Oh, sure.
is we talk about that a little bit because, we love, I mean, it's about a space cowboy who relives everything 5 times and he's a little
Yep.
depressed. I love that, right?
Yeah.
So good. But is there something from the Ring of Dainthar Dween that populates there with some of the characters? Because you're so good at dialogue, Michael. But some of the characters, I had to look and look again. When they're like tussling with each other, they say, "Oi." And I was like, wait a minute. Where is that coming from? Am I making a leap?
I don't know about a strict dialogue connection because in the epic poem I do big paragraphs of dialogue and it's not
Oh.
short and snappy. But I think
But
there
you
is a
do
connection. In the quintilogy, there's an Irish character, and so is some bleed into that. Yeah.
you do short and
Yeah.
snappy
Yeah.
so well. Your sentences, and I'm thinking about the man in blue, like just those sentences, the crispness is just breathtaking.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I learned how to do that. It
Yeah.
didn't start off like
Hmm.
that.
And those are short stories that you've written, a few of them
Yes.
that, yeah,
Mhm.
Old Man Joke, Warrior, The Man in Blue,
Hmm.
Rain, Peacock. See, we're just building out, our position here that you are an epic writer.
Hmm.
You know, when I was writing The Ring of Dainthar Dween, I learned how to write a lot on that project
Hmm.
because I was doing like bursts. So I think the first 3 or 4 chapters I wrote, I would write the whole thing, I would get into a mood, write it, and then when I finished it, I would take a big break for months and months. And then I would come back to it and write in big chunks. And I realized if I was going to keep doing it at that pace, it would take me forever to write one book. So I made a decision, and since January 1st, 2019, I have written a page of fiction a day. And that has been my goal, and I've managed to keep it. And so I learned that discipline working on the epic poem, and it sort of carried through, and now I can do so many different things and just, okay, I finished that. Let's go to the next thing, just through keeping it going.
Do you have multiple projects that you are working on? Like, can you choose for your page a day? Can you pick and choose between projects, or do you do it sequentially?
It really depends. Sometimes I do it sequentially because another life goal of mine is to write a book a year,
Like,
which so far so good. But I have to decide on how much I feel like a novella counts as a book a year. But right now I'm just sort of bouncing between things. I'm trying to increase my daily writing to maybe like 1,000 words a day. So I've got a novella where, if I feel I can hit that target, I work on the novella. If I'm not feeling I can hit that target, maybe I'll write some flash fiction or a short story or something else. But I think in order to make a book a year, I do have to when I start one, I have to, you know, follow through.
Mhm.
yeah. How is that when we love the peek into your process, Wynne and I always love, kind of hearing about that. But you're bringing us something that's a little different than what we hear sometimes about the discipline and setting very specific goals. Is that hard for you to do some days when you have been so in the trenches helping other writers, find their way to high ground, doing a lot of editing, I'm imagining, and movement of text and, reorganizing things. By the time you get to you doing you, do you have to preserve some energy so that you haven't like run out of gas entirely?
Uh, yes, it's been a bad habit of mine, but I've been writing it as doing my daily writing as like the last thing I do. So the last thing I do in a day is staring at a computer screen, and it takes me a little time to fall asleep. But yes, you do. But like, creativity can come like from very small things. And so if I'm just doing whatever and I find a little spark, that can be enough to get me through my daily writing. Or, I'll write it down in like an idea book and keep it for later.
Mm,
Mhm.
good.
A little inspiration. I love that way you call it a spark. Something that
Hmm.
Yes.
starts the flow, turns the spigot on.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's all it takes sometimes. I know when I started out, I was waiting for those like big waves of creativity that could
Yeah.
sustain me for a long time. But those are few and far between. Finding the little ones and sustaining myself on those is
Yeah.
that's how I do it.
That's really good. Reminds me of the
Well,
quote from Madeline L'Engle.
oh yeah.
Inspiration usually comes during work, not before it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about writing is when you're in a scene and you don't know where it's how you're going to get out of it. And
Hmm.
then you just get that little idea that gives you two, three paragraphs and you can escape.
Uh,
Escape. What a good word for it.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Until tomorrow, right? Until the
Yes.
next day, right? Well, and thinking about your inspiration, where did this idea of Quint, who, is sort of tortured 5 times over, haven't read all of it, but I have to tell you just the first part of it is just
Hmm.
so enchanting and there's so much originality in it.
Hmm.
Is that what sustains you? Because that feel of all the things, that Wynne and I are excited for you about the things that you've done, they're each creative in such distinct ways, but what what matters to you most?
I don't know. I think in each story I tell, I'm exploring like a little aspect of myself or like what I believe in or how I see the world. So, taking just a small piece of myself, putting it into the book, and then like attacking it really, really brings that out because it lets me see, oh, maybe I don't think this about this, or you're just seeing me put something on a page about myself helps me like um, figure something out about myself.
Yeah.
Um, it's very, it's cathartic in that way.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, and lest we do a lousy job of it, can you give us kind of your elevator pitch about how you would synthesize, your space cowboy who's depressed? What part of you is in Quint? How would you describe him
Um,
in that?
Quint is depressed. Quint is very isolated. But I think the part of me that's in Quint is the part that's like, I don't know, searching for something.
Mm.
He's looking for any out that he can
Mm-hmm.
find. Um, and whether or not he finds it, that's in the series. I
Mm,
won't
yes.
spoil it.
Mm.
No, but there are some fabulous lines. So permission to embarrass you with like a quick takes of a few things that were like, what?
Sure,
Right?
go.
Okay, like I'm a notorious annotator and so is Wynne, but there's
Mhm.
a sentence that you wrote. This is about being in the bar and they're colonizing, they're terraforming, it's in the future. But you wrote as Quint was looking at the patrons in the bar, you wrote they were watching him without looking at him, an old bar skill. And I was like,
Mhm.
how'd you do that? That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Uh, I honestly didn't remember that line. So I'm glad I put it in there
Yeah.
for you. I don't know. It's sometimes you write a really good line and you're proud of it and it sticks on the page. Sometimes you don't, and you get to that through the edit.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
synthesize it. And I don't know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
A-
so
Amen
good.
to that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, we love giving feedback because I think that's hard when you're writing. We hear different people say have a specific reader in mind. Do
Mhm.
you have a reader in mind when you're writing?
Uh, no, I don't. I mean, I want my books to be liked by my friends and family.
Yeah,
So usually when I finish something, I'll send it off to whoever's interested in reading. But no, I think I write because I want to write, because it makes me very happy to write. If no one reads my books but friends and family, so be it. They'll get to enjoy them.
so good. Well,
That's
I
a
have so many. What do you think, Wynne and Michael? Can I share one more?
Go ahead. Yeah.
do it.
Oh my gosh, decisions, decisions. Oh my gosh. Um, at one point, Quint, and again, I don't want to give away too much, but he looks at what's going on around him and the people that are supposed to be helping him kind of get out of, we'll call it a sticky situation. And there's a guy named Pete early on that we don't really know, Pete is, but
Hmm.
Quint's looking for like real support. And Pete, without missing a beat, when Quint looks at him and says, "How will you help?" Pete says, "Moral support," right? It's just like, I mean, it's just like so good, right? He's thinking he might be in the fight of his life, Quint, but
Yeah.
grizzly old Pete's like, "Yeah, I'm here for moral support," which is, something is really good, when we laugh out loud all alone,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we're reading. So good. And then this, I'll share one more that was just sort of poignant. Quinn's looking at what's going on around him, and it's just there's so much. So we encourage people to take hold of all the things, that we've talked about. But he writes, or he says at one point, you write, "This mud ball isn't pretty enough for my to be my grave." And I was like, oh yeah. I mean, he really
Yeah.
I love
understands.
that
He is
line too.
right on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
Um,
right.
good.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm going to give
One
a
of the
shout.
hardest things to write is humor. Humor is
Mm-hmm.
impossible to write. So it does help to have you know, just going out with friends and being at a bar at trivia and just talking back and forth and then, stealing some of that and putting it into a book. Because if it made me laugh, it might work on another person.
The moral support line was really
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
was so good.
Yeah.
But we've talked about several things that you have done, but do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing or
Yeah,
where
sure.
you hope people can find you, how we can help spread the good news about what you do?
Yeah, so the Quintilogy is a series of 5 novellas up on Kindle right now. You can find it by searching my name. Hopefully, you can find it by searching Quintilogy,
Yeah.
although I've had mixed success with that.
Mm.
Um, but you can search the first story, Whiskey, and hopefully that'll bring you to the others. I am also turning the epic poem, epic fantasy, The Ring of Dame Thardwine, into an audiobook. And I think you can, in the picture, see the closet where I record, right in the corner of the picture. So I've
Because
been
writing
turning,
is really glamorous, right?
it sure
Really
is.
glamorous, yeah.
I sit in a hot little closet and read something. So that's all on YouTube. You can find it by searching my name, I think. And I aim to release, there are 20 chapters to that poem, and I aim to release one a month recorded. So that's there. And then what I'm working on right now is just I'm working on some novellas that are more historically inspired than fantastical. Right now I'm doing one about it's like an underdog sports team set in Renaissance Italy. It's like a jock's greaser's tale. I'm having a lot of fun with
Words I've never heard in combination
it.
before, but yeah, that's yeah, and yeah, history too. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a 50s football story set in Renaissance Italy.
Love it.
That's great.
Yes. Oh my
So
goodness.
good. Well, I love, you're one of the lines that came from this podcast. Writing makes me happy to write. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just such a
Yeah.
good summation
Yeah.
of why we write, the benefit of writing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. That
I
was a
mean,
gem.
it just feels good
hmm
to tell a story just for myself.
right. Mm.
Well, and I think you also said, creativity comes from small places. And I think,
Mm.
you're clearly a keen observer of the human condition, and then everything gets cataloged, right? And never know when it'll appear.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. You read a book and then you set it in the back of your mind and then just let it stew there and let it get muddled and until you don't remember where you got it from.
hmm
Yeah.
And then it's attached to something you never thought it would attach to, and then you pull it out and turn it into a book or a short story or a novella, whatever.
Amazing.
So good.
Wow. Well, we're so pleased to have spent time with you to learn more about who you are as a writer and all of your creative inspiration. So, Michael Frutig, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you,
It was a
Michael.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Our music is composed for Sharing the Heart of the Matter by the exquisitely talented duo of Jack Canfora and Rob Koenig. For show notes and more great inspiration, please visit our site at sharingtheheartofthematter.com.